This otter dragged a shoe to shore. What divers found changed everything. The otter came out of the river at 6:12 in the morning, dragging a child's shoe in its mouth. At first, nobody on the towpath noticed. The town of Marrowbend was only half awake. Fog lay low over the river, softening the outlines of the boats, the old brick warehouses, and the iron footbridge that crossed from the market side to the park. A bakery van rattled along the cobbled road. A cyclist passed with a blinking red light on the back of his jacket. Somewhere behind the houses, a dog barked once and fell silent. The river Alder moved slowly beneath the gray sky, swollen from 3 days of rain. On most mornings, the river looked harmless. That was how it fooled people. Emma Rhodes knew better. She had rowed on the Alder as a teenager, watched it rise after storms, watched branches spin in its currents, watched calm water hide dangerous things beneath the surface. Now, at 46, she ran the small riverside cafe beside the old mill steps and opened early for boat workers, dog walkers, and commuters who wanted coffee before the town grew noisy. She was unlocking the cafe door when she heard splashing near the reeds. At first, she thought it was a duck. Then something dark and sleek climbed onto the stone step below the quay. An otter. Emma froze with her keys still in her hand. Otters lived along the Alder, but most people saw them only as flashes at dusk or ripples near the banks. This one stood fully in the open, soaked fur shining, whiskers twitching, small paws braced on the wet stone. In its mouth was a shoe. A tiny blue trainer with one Velcro strap hanging loose. Emma's stomach tightened. The otter dropped the shoe. Then it looked at her. Not like a pet. Not like an animal asking for food. Like a wild creature caught between fear and urgency. The shoe slid slightly on the wet step. Emma took one slow step forward. The otter picked it up again, turned toward the river, then dropped it once more. "Where did you get that?" Emma whispered. The otter made a sharp chittering sound. Behind Emma, the cafe's first customer, retired firefighter Arthur Bell, stopped at the corner holding his newspaper. "Emma?" She did not look away from the animal. "Arthur, call the police." He frowned. "What?" "Call the police. Now." The otter grabbed the shoe again and scrambled down the step toward the river. It did not dive immediately. Instead, it paused at the waterline, looking back toward Emma. Arthur came closer and saw the shoe. His face changed. "Oh Lord." Emma pulled out her phone and called emergency services while Arthur moved toward the railing. "This is Emma Rhodes at Mill Quay on the River Alder," she said quickly. "An otter just brought a child's shoe out of the river. It seems to be leading us toward something. We may have a missing child or accident near the water." The dispatcher asked questions. Emma answered while watching the otter slip into the river and swim slowly along the bank, still visible in the morning fog. Then, from somewhere beneath the footbridge, came a sound. A knock. Hollow. Metallic. 3 times. Bang. 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 Arthur gripped the railing. That wasn't driftwood. Emma's voice shook into the phone. "We heard banging under the bridge." The otter surfaced near the middle support of the old footbridge. It circled, dove, surfaced again, and slapped its tail against the water. Then it swam back toward the shore. Without the shoe. Emma ran along the towpath. Arthur followed, shouting for anyone nearby to stop and help. A cyclist skidded to a halt. A boat worker came out of the marina shed. 2 joggers slowed, confused, then frightened when Emma pointed to the tiny shoe in her hand. The banging came again. Bang. Bang. This time, weaker. A man from the marina leaned over the railing beneath the footbridge and shouted, "Hello? Is someone down there?" A child's voice answered from below the waterline. "Help!" For one terrible second, the whole towpath went silent. Then everyone moved. The marina worker, Callum Reed, scrambled down the stone steps toward the lower maintenance platform. Arthur took charge with the old certainty of someone whose body remembered emergencies even after retirement. He told the cyclist, go to the main road and flag emergency vehicles. You two, keep people back from the edge. Emma, stay on the phone. Tell them we have a child trapped under the bridge. Emma relayed everything. The old footbridge had a maintenance cavity beneath the central support, an ugly metal service box installed decades ago when pipes ran under the walkway. It was not meant to be accessible. During floods, debris collected around it. Sometimes teenagers dared each other to climb down there from the riverbank when the water was low. But after the rain, the river had risen almost to the lower edge. Callum reached the platform, knelt, and shone his phone light into the gap beneath the bridge. His face went pale. There's a kid inside. Emma felt the world tilt. Inside the partially submerged maintenance cavity, trapped behind a bent metal grill, was a little boy. He could not have been more than 6. Only his upper body was above water. He clung to a rusted pipe with both hands, his face ghost white, hair plastered to his forehead, lips trembling. The water around him was dark and rising slowly with the river surge. A small yellow backpack floated beside him, wedged against the metal. Callum reached toward the grill. It's jammed. Arthur shouted, don't pull too hard. You could shift the whole panel. The boy sobbed. I dropped my shoe. Emma looked down at the tiny blue trainer in her hand. Her throat closed. The otter surfaced beside the platform, chittered loudly, then dove again. Arthur stared at the animal. It found him. The boy's name was Lucas Hale. They learned that while waiting for rescue. Emma crouched as close as she safely could and called down to him, keeping her voice calm though every part of her wanted to scream. Lucas, my name is Emma. Help is coming. I'm cold, he cried. I know, sweetheart. My sister fell. Emma went still. Arthur heard it too. What did he say? Emma leaned closer. Lucas, where is your sister? The boy's breathing hitched. In the water. Callum swore under his breath. Arthur turned sharply. We need divers. Tell dispatch now. Emma spoke into the phone, her voice breaking despite her effort to hold it steady. There may be another child in the river. The boy says his sister fell into the water. We need divers immediately. The dispatcher confirmed water rescue was already en route. But the river was moving. And the morning fog hid everything. The otter surfaced again, farther downstream this time, near a cluster of reeds and floating branches caught against an old mooring chain. It made a sharp noise, dove, surfaced, then circled the same spot. Arthur saw it. Downstream, he shouted. The otter's marking something. Callum looked torn between Lucas and the spot downstream. A jogger named Ben moved first. I'll look. Don't go in the water. Arthur snapped. I won't. Ben ran along the towpath toward the reeds, while the boat worker grabbed a long hook from the marina shed and followed. Emma stayed by Lucas, telling him to hold on, telling him rescuers were coming, telling him his shoe was safe because children sometimes needed to know the smallest things had not been lost. What color is your sister's coat? Arthur called down. Purple, Lucas sobbed. Her name is Ava. Ava. Emma repeated the name into the phone. The otter dove again. At the reeds, Ben shouted, I see something. Everything seemed to stop. He reached with the boat hook, carefully pulling aside branches. A purple sleeve appeared just beneath the surface. The marina worker lunged, grabbed fabric, and shouted for help. Arthur, despite his age, ran faster than Emma thought possible. Together with 2 others, they pulled a little girl from the water onto the muddy bank. She was unconscious. Maybe 8 years old. Purple coat. No movement. Emma heard someone start CPR. She could not leave Lucas, but she could hear the counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. The sirens arrived then. Police first. Then ambulance. Then fire and water rescue. The towpath filled with boots, helmets, radios, ropes, medical bags, and urgent voices. Paramedics took over CPR on Ava. Firefighters secured the lower platform and began working to free Lucas from the maintenance cavity. Divers entered the water to check for any other victims and hazards. The Otter vanished beneath the surface. Lucas screamed when rescuers began cutting the metal grill. "I want Ava." Emma kept talking to him. "You keep looking at me, Lucas. You hold that pipe. You're doing so well. Is Ava okay?" Emma could not answer. Not with certainty. So she said the truest thing she could. People are helping her. The grill finally gave way after firefighters cut through one side and bent it outward. A rescuer in a dry suit reached inside, wrapped Lucas in a flotation harness, and lifted him carefully from the cavity. He was shaking violently, soaked to the bone, and too weak to stand. Emma held up the blue shoe as he came out. "I have it." Lucas saw it and burst into tears. A paramedic wrapped him in blankets and carried him toward the ambulance. He kept calling Ava's name. Downstream, after several agonizing minutes, Ava coughed. The sound was small. Wet. Fragile. But it was life. Arthur turned away, one hand over his face. Emma sank to her knees on the towpath and cried for the first time. Ava was rushed to hospital in critical condition. Lucas followed in a second ambulance, suffering from hypothermia, bruising, and shock. Their mother, Rachel Hale, arrived at the quay minutes after the ambulances left, having been contacted by police when the children were identified from Lucas's backpack. She came running in slippers. No coat. Hair loose. Face emptied by terror. "Where are they?" she cried. "Where are my children?" A police officer caught her gently before she reached the blocked platform. Emma stood, holding the blue shoe. Rachel saw it. Her knees buckled. The story came together slowly over the next 2 days. Lucas and Ava had left home early that morning because Ava wanted to show her little brother the river otters before school. Their father, who used to bring them to Mill Quay on weekends, had died the previous winter. Ava had been struggling with the loss, and she told Lucas that if they saw an otter, it would mean Dad was watching the river like he used to. Children make maps out of grief that adults do not always see. They reached the footbridge before sunrise. The river was high, but the lower steps were not fully underwater yet. Lucas dropped his shoe while climbing down after Ava. The shoe fell near the maintenance platform. When he tried to reach it, he slipped through a gap in the bent grill and became trapped inside the service cavity. Ava tried to help him. Then the water surged. She lost her footing and was swept downstream. Lucas shouted until his voice weakened. No one heard. Except the otter. No one knew exactly how the otter got the shoe. Maybe it found the floating trainer near the platform. Maybe it was attracted by movement and sound. Maybe it carried the strange object to shore because otters are curious and sometimes move objects. Maybe its repeated diving and surfacing had nothing like human intention behind it. But what mattered was this: the shoe reached shore. Emma noticed. Arthur listened. And when the otter circled downstream, the searchers looked where it moved. Ava survived. Barely. She spent days in intensive care, then weeks recovering from near drowning, lung complications, and hypothermia. Lucas recovered faster physically, but the trauma lingered. He would wake crying that he could not hold the pipe any longer. Ava, when she finally understood what had happened, cried because Lucas had been trapped and she had been swept away. Rachel cried because she had nearly lost both children before breakfast. At the hospital, Lucas asked Emma the first time she visited, "Did the otter bring my shoe?" Emma sat beside the bed, his blue trainer cleaned and resting on the windowsill. "Yes," she said. "Did it find Ava too?" Emma thought about the otter circling the reeds. "It helped us look in the right place." Lucas turned that over in his mind. "Can I name it?" "It's wild," Emma said gently. "It may already have a life and a family and no interest in names." Lucas considered this. "River," he said. Emma smiled. "River is a good name." Ava, pale and quiet in the next bed, whispered, "Dad liked otters." Rachel closed her eyes. "I know, sweetheart." The town changed after that morning. The old maintenance cavity under the bridge had been reported before, but nobody had treated it as urgent. The grill was bent. The warning signs were faded. The lower steps were too easy for children to access. After the rescue, the council sealed the cavity, repaired the bridge, installed proper barriers, and added emergency throw lines along the quay. Schools began teaching water safety before every spring term. At a public meeting, Arthur Bell stood with his walking stick and said, "If an otter hadn't dragged a shoe to shore, 2 children would be dead because adults left a trap under a bridge." Nobody liked hearing it. Nobody could deny it. Emma kept the shoe for a week because the police needed it photographed and documented. When it was returned, Rachel asked if Emma would bring it to the cafe. So one rainy afternoon, Lucas came with his mother and Ava. Ava still tired easily and wore a scarf even indoors. Lucas carried the shoe with both hands like it was something sacred. Emma had cleared a small shelf near the cafe window. Not to turn the story into decoration, but because Rachel wanted people to remember. They placed the shoe inside a simple glass case with a small card beneath it, "Found by the river. Follow the warning. Watch the water." People stopped to read it. Some cried. Parents held children's hands tighter near the quay. Months later, the otter returned. Or at least, an otter did. It appeared at dusk near the reeds across from Emma's cafe, sleek and dark against the orange water. Lucas saw it first during a cautious family walk along the repaired river path. "There," he whispered. Everyone stopped. The otter surfaced, rolled once, and vanished. Ava smiled for the first time that day. "River," Lucas said. Rachel did not tell him it might be another otter. Neither did Emma. Some hopes should not be corrected too quickly. Years passed, and the river Alder became safer because of what happened. Not harmless. Rivers are never harmless. But safer. Barriers were maintained. Schools visited the quay for water safety lessons. The bridge was inspected after storms. The marina workers kept rescue hooks accessible. Emma's cafe became an unofficial place where lost gloves, hats, and once a child's teddy bear were kept until claimed. Lucas grew taller. Ava grew stronger. Their grief for their father changed shape. It did not disappear, but it stopped pulling them toward dangerous places. Instead, they joined river cleanup days. They learned about otters properly, wild, shy, curious, important to the health of the river. Ava became especially determined that people stop throwing plastic and fishing line into the water. When she was 14, she gave a school presentation called "What the River Keeps." She ended with a photo of her brother's blue shoe. "The river kept this," she said. "Then an otter gave it back. That is why I am here." Emma sat in the back row and cried quietly. Arthur lived long enough to see the new bridge safety railings completed and painted. He visited the cafe every morning until his knees made the walk too hard. When he could no longer come, Emma delivered coffee to his house on Fridays. He always asked the same question. "Seen river lately?" Sometimes she had. Sometimes she had not. Either way, she answered, "I looked." That was the lesson they all carried. Look. Look at the bank. Look under the bridge. Look where the animal dives. Look where the child points. Look at the small strange thing lying on the shore. Years later, Lucas returned to Milquay as a young man training with the Water Rescue Service. On his first day in uniform, he stood beneath the footbridge with Emma, Rachel, and Ava. The river moved calmly under a bright sky. The repaired barriers gleamed. The dangerous cavity was gone, sealed behind stone and steel. Lucas held the old blue shoe, now faded and too small to seem real. "I don't remember everything," he said. "But I remember the pipe. And the cold. And you saying you had my shoe." Emma smiled softly. "I thought it mattered." "It did." Ava looked at the river. "I remember sinking," she said quietly. "Then waking up and hearing Mum." Rachel put an arm around her. Lucas looked toward the reeds. "Do you think it knew?" Emma followed his gaze. An otter's head appeared briefly near the far bank, then disappeared into a ring of ripples. She thought about the question. Did the otter know it was bringing help? Did it understand a shoe belonged to a child? Did it circle Ava because it wanted humans to see, or because the reeds held fish and debris and life moving beneath the surface? No one could say. But sometimes rescue does not need intention to become miracle. Sometimes a wild creature simply does what wild creatures do, and humans are wise enough to pay attention. "I think," Emma said, "it showed us where to look." Lucas nodded. That was enough. So before we go, remember this: sometimes the river gives back a clue before it gives back a life. A tiny blue shoe on a wet stone step. An otter chittering in the fog. A sound beneath a bridge that someone almost missed. The otter could not speak. It could not open the metal grill. It could not pull Lucas from the maintenance cavity or lift Ava from the reeds. But it dragged the shoe to shore. It circled the water. It made people look closer. And because they did, one child was pulled from under the bridge, another was found downstream before it was too late, and a town finally fixed a danger it had ignored for years. Sometimes everything changes because someone follows the smallest sign left at the edge of the water.